training program called STEP, and how we've included a module, an intercultural and global justice module in it, and we've told some of that story in the article. And then, as I've introduced, I'm going to look specifically then at how we can include a global perspective in our youth work, so a global justice element. I work for the YMCA, but the NYCI is going to feature strongly, I think, in my story, or in my 10 minutes, because it's the organisation, I guess, that's been closest with us in our own journey, and has had, and still has, wonderful opportunities for us to engage. One of the things we do with the YMCA, and I've done with Alan Hayes there over since 2008, is deliver a training programme to equip youth workers so that they can also incorporate a development perspective for global justice issues into their youth work. And the very first thing we say is that we're not the experts here. And I like the first presentation where we're reminded of us as being a tremendous resource. And I suppose my first message would be that anyone who wants to do this, all you really need is your youth work experience, and then I'm going to highlight one or two resources as I go along and opportunities, and that's kind of it. And hopefully, by the end of a few minutes, you'll see that it can bring a wonderful opportunity, especially to challenge the issue of social inclusion or exclusion. Examples of global justice issues, just to name a few: global poverty, poor health, child labour, unemployment, issues that are very prevalent in the global south, in developing countries, but as we know, very prevalent here too. I noticed that, I saw a figure last night, that 9 of 10 young people in the world, so 90% of the young people in the world, are from developing countries, which is surprised me last night, but I suppose it just shows us how much the global south, another perspective on how big the global south is as part of our world. One of the first resources maybe to, if you're, and I know from speaking to a few people and knowing a few other people that some of you are already doing this work in the room, but if you're not, and if you're interested to include it, a good starting point for me is a resource called Going Global, by the NYCI on the website youth.dev.ed. We can make this available later. That's where all of the resources are free, available, all downloadable as PDFs. And I suppose just to highlight some of the key steps in that document that kind of highlight the process, the key steps in the process of exploring these issues. It's very important that we begin with young people's own experiences. Identifying an issue that's important to them, it must be directly relevant to their needs. I have a little story, I think I can squeeze it in my few minutes, and that might help us to get a picture of that. Connecting their local issue, once it's identified, to what we say connected to the global. But I suppose what's really important in that one, from my perspective, is that remembering that that global element or that perspective is actually also a local issue for somebody. Then exploring multiple perspectives. And again, one of the presentations so far looked at identity, or mentioned identity, how important that is. I guess this for me maybe is at the heart of the exploration and the learning journey. It's where critical literacy is a term, and what it means is I suppose a combination of how young people see the world and the language they use to express that view. We would encourage all young people we want to hear their perspectives, but then we want them to examine their perspectives. We want to know from them, we'd like them to express what are the values behind those perspectives. What events have influenced them in their lives, because that's what our perspectives, they're the values that impact on us and that help us to form those perspectives. Then a wonderful part is when we identify solutions to our issues. And this is the bit, I think, where we can really, young people can step out of their local situation, needy situation, difficult situation, and get excited by something different, but in that journey actually figure out some solutions to their own problems locally. And what we would say in the training and in this manual as well is that without action there will be something hugely missing. So the final part of the process is to help the young people to identify an action that they can work on. Okay, I don't think I'll be able to tell the story. We've got 3 minutes, right? 4 minutes. I'm going to try and tell the story, right? I want you to imagine this last week, and if you imagine a typical Irish person, a young person, we call him Pavel, right? He's grown up in West Cork for most of his life. He's 16. He's been busy trying to secure a summer job for his holidays. He loves football. He follows Chelsea Football Club. His favourite player is the Brazilian Oscar. He's been looking forward to the Confederations Cup in Brazil. That's where it's being played at the moment. A little dress rehearsal for the World Cup. He knows lots about football. He knows that Brazil is full of football fanatics like himself. The tournament's in RT too, so he's all set, ready to go. Just before Brazil's second game last week, there was an announcement on TV that there were some riots. And the thing that worried him was that there was word that the tournament might be cancelled. But anyway, it's okay, the game went ahead and Brazil won. The following morning he hears the news that a Brazilian boy the same age as himself was killed in the protests, which seemed to have got worse overnight. He is sad. He identifies, I don't know, he thinks football, this isn't meant to be. Later that day, when he's on Facebook, he sees a post that somebody has inserted, where somebody has inserted an article about why this is all going off in Brazil. He finds out that next year's World Cup is going to cost over 11 billion, and many Brazilians who living in poverty are afraid of what education and health cuts might follow. He thinks about this some more. He's angry, feels unfair. If I pause the story for a moment, I believe that, and in my experience, there's an innate sense of fairness inside in a young person. From a child, people know what's fair and unfair, what slice is bigger than the other, and so on. Come back to the story. He decides, he had planned to buy a Brazil shirt, so he's been saving up for a while, and he feels better now about the fact that he wants to wear this Brazil shirt. He feels a little bit of solidarity maybe. He buys the shirt, feels good about supporting these poor people. We pause the story. I guess when he was a little angry in the story, when something touched him, there was an emotional contact. And I think that that's really, really important in the journey as well. We mentioned that this begins with an issue that's important for them, but it's important that there's emotion in that for them, but also for us, that's a challenge for us as well. The lucky and unlucky people is a bit of an issue that we will explore further. These poor people, it's not like a them and us quite like that. Okay, continuing the story, Pavel chats to his neighbour about the match and the protest which he found out about. And his neighbour says, Pavel, you've only contributed to the problem. He's looking at his shirt and says, look, you've bought this nice shirt. This has put money in the pockets of those who profit from the global businesses that football create. He's sad. And now he's on his way to his youth work session with you. What will you do? There are many challenges for the youth worker in that place. Some of us, I just go back to this thing, we need to tap into that emotion. We really need, this is an important issue for young people when it's raised, and we need to really get into that with them. Don't be afraid is a key message that I would have as well. In the course, we encounter this a lot. I had a fear myself. What do I know about the Brazilian economy? I rely on my youth work practice. I'm a facilitator, and there are others who have the resources that will help me. Some of those resources, Chokra, for example, just to name one of their resources, they have regular international speakers who come to Ireland. The NYCA resources, as I've mentioned already, if you're experiencing youth work practice, then you will be able to just pick up and run with these. Brilliant methodologies and very easy for you to adapt. There's an event called One World Week, which could be a very first introduction for your young people to engage in something big and national and be part of it all. And my time is up, isn't it? Almost there. I mentioned the training, the National Youth Council's training in partnership with the YMCA, as we're a FETAC provider, our accredited body. One of those will take place again, so that's a wonderful opportunity later this year for youth workers around Ireland. Global youth work can excite young people, and it can really take them out of their local situation. And I've seen wonderful things. I've been with young people as part of this work. We've come to Ireland, to Dublin for an event, and I've discovered that person has never left, or has never been in Dublin. And we're eating Indian food, and he's never eaten Indian food. And there's a fun element, and there's that sense of justice that they can identify with as well, or an injustice that they can identify with. It's very easy to work with that once you have some experience as a youth worker, and that's just something extra that you can bring to your youth work. So thanks very much.